Hello and welcome to today's Cook Along with Me. We're going to just be simply preparing some broccoli. Lots and lots of different ways that you can prepare broccoli, and we'll probably show some additional videos moving forward. But one of my favorite things to do, especially when you're working hard to incorporate vegetables into the diet, is just preparing them neutrally so that you have them in the fridge and then you can incorporate them into different dishes. So with broccoli, a lot of times what I will do is I will cut them up. I'll put them in a pan of boiling water for only 3 to 5 minutes so that they start to soften, but they're not totally cooked through. And then I'll drain them and then I'll have them in the refrigerator so that anything I'm cooking, they're already cut up, they're already partially cooked, so I can add them to things. And it's really, really easy to add them in, and I'm not having to prepare it every single time. You could also do that with steaming. I have found I struggle with steaming. They go from not quite done to too done really, really quickly. So I like the boiling because then I am able to not cook them for too long. I pretty much have dialed in how long I want them cooked for, and I don't typically have that problem. So that is why I go with boiling over steaming. Personal preference, you absolutely could do either, but it's just getting them basically prepared so that it's a lot easier to integrate them and incorporate them into the week's meals. So I will do this with broccoli, I'll do this with zucchini, I'll do this with asparagus, really whatever vegetable I'm wanting to incorporate that week. I'll make a large amount and then I can add it and adjust it depending on what I want to make that week. So with broccoli, we're just going to get into it. You might already know how to cut broccoli, and you might want to fast forward this, or maybe you're interested in what I do. So we're going to have you come along. Typically, I cut the major part of the stalk off and just get rid of it. You're still leaving some stalk. I do cut up a bit of it, but this is a little overkill for me personally. When I'm composting, it goes great into there. It's winter right now, so we're not doing a lot of composting. Okay, so then what I do is just start to cut down on them and start cutting up the stalk a little bit more. So I don't know how much of you have really paid attention. I might freak you out right now, but broccoli can have a tendency to get parts that have little bugs in them. And so I personally like to really be a little bit more intricate when I'm cutting up my broccoli in case there are bugs in a part. So we're going to pause for a moment. I'm going to take my pot. I'm going to fill it up now. This has come over time as well, but I've become a little bit more of a stickler about water. So when I'm boiling things, I like to use our filtered water and not just tap water, but you may not care, or you may slowly transfer into that. That's just what I do at this point. We've had a few issues with our tap water, so when I'm cooking and soaking my food in it, I don't tend to love to use the tap water. I like to use my filtered water. Okay, so back to cutting up. So I will cut my stalks, and then I will start to cut them down a bit smaller, so I just have kind of bite-sized pieces, because like I said, I'm hoping that this is all going to be ready for me to be able to just pull out and use however I'm wanting to use it. So we'll just continue to do that. Now if you've noticed, I'm putting it into a bowl that actually has a strainer incorporated into it, because one of the things I like to do with my broccoli, okay, so side note, this is the part where maybe a lot of you would just leave this big chunk, but a lot of times I will cut it in half because those sneaky little bugs can lay in there, and then you know if it's really clean. Okay, so you want to keep an eye on that. Maybe you don't care, but if you have bigger clumps, I like to at least cut them in half just to make sure everything is clean and kosher in there. Alright, so back to what I was saying, is that I like to soak them in a bit of water and vinegar for a little bit, just to make sure that anything that has been on it gets cleaned off, and then I can just rinse them off out of the strainer. Also, another advantage, which is what just happened, if you saw me find a little something, is that sometimes you'll get little broccoli pieces that break off and just kind of start to not like rot like they're rotten, but just go brown in that area, like this one. I don't know if you can see and tell, but then we can just cut that off, and it just makes everything a little bit fresher. Make sure that you have some really tasty pieces. A lot of really learning to incorporate healthier things into your diet is developing a relationship with your food. And so beginning to look at it more like a meditation or a gift to yourself and your family. So many of us, because we're so busy and life is so crazy, food becomes drudgery, and it becomes this thing that we have to get through so that we can survive, but we lose the love and the passion for it. And you might think I'm a little woo-woo at this point, but the energy and the love that you infuse your food with while you're cooking and while you're preparing it and while you're cutting it up, I believe really, and I've actually had some personal experiences watching it, but has a real impact on the way that it nourishes that person's body. I remember reading this study, which was so fascinating to me and full-heartedly dedicated me to a garden, that they found when they were doing a study on some gardening, that they had found on this study that a garden would actually produce the nutrient profile that that particular family or person needed. And I thought that was wild, because when you're caring for your garden, it is actually starting to pick up and reflect back to you whatever is going to be most nourishing to you. And I strongly believe that when you're cooking and preparing food, it is very similar. That if you're grumpy and resentful and angry while you're doing it, or rushing through it, or frustrated that you're having to do it, that is going to be infused into your food. And if you can do it with care and with love and with the intent of self-care and a gift to yourself and to your family, it can take on a completely different energy. Let's be honest. I did not always enjoy cooking. And I have really, at this point, grown to love it. So, it's a little bit of a shift in perspective. Alright, so we'll continue cutting this up, and I will check back in with you once it is all finished. Okay, so we've just finished cutting up our broccoli. We're going to go ahead and pour our water in over them. And then I will add, I really don't measure this, like a dab or two, maybe a tablespoon to two worth of vinegar. And then just kind of stir that around and let them soak in it while I'm waiting for my water to boil. So that we're just cleaning off any other sprays or yuckiness that could have gotten on them and just infusing them with more love. Alright, we'll let that sit for a bit and be back soon. Okay, so the water's has begun to boil. I've gone ahead and rinsed off, drained all of my vinegar water out, rinsed off all of my broccoli. I'm going to go ahead and just, nothing to it. Go ahead and just throw the broccoli in here. I have learned many a time, do this gently so you don't splash and burn yourself. Right, and instantly you start to get this like beautiful color. We're gonna put our timer on for like 3 minutes, and we're gonna just slightly stir them, make sure everything is submerged. Put our lid back on and just let it boil. And it won't go into an instant boil right away. It should be fairly soon because you've allowed everything to kind of come to a room temperature. But then once you get it boiled, I encourage you after that 3 minutes to try it. If it still is like way too hard, then let it go. If you feel like, yeah, that's a pretty good consistency, then good. But start to develop your own personal relationship with your food and what works for you. Our timer's gone off, we're done boiling, and we're going to try this. I want you to really begin to, brave. I'm going to try stop because that's going to be your harder one. And start to develop a relationship with your food. So, trying it out, seeing if it's at a good consistency for you. If it is, perfect. If not, you can do it a little longer. If you're like, actually, that's too long, the next time you want to do it shorter. And for me, that's about perfect because it still has a little crunch to it, so I can add it into my other cooking. I'm going to try to stock. We'll try a tree top as well, but it's not mushy yet, but it also looks really good. Oh yeah, that's perfect. So total probably has been in there about 4, maybe 4.5 minutes. I'm going to come over here and I am going to drain them really quickly. Now my husband tells me that I should run cold water while I drain. I believe him, so I do it. Maybe you've never been told that. He says it's better for your pipes if you do that. But mostly, I want to show you how when it's not super overcooked, how you have just this beautiful, bright green color that appears. Just look alive. And so now it's not overcooked, but you've prepared it so you can start to eat it. You can eat it by itself. You can add some butter, salt, and pepper and call it good. Or you can get creative and start to integrate it into new things. But now you have a whole week's worth of broccoli that you can use however you want and feel so excited that it's already ready to go. Doesn't take too long. And you're starting to get more vegetables into your diet. Way to go. So there you have it, how to just neutrally prepare broccoli so that it's ready to go. And like I said, you can have a little butter. You can try it. Start trying your food without anything on it. Developing a little bit of a love just for the pure taste of your vegetables. And then add a little butter. Add some salt and pepper. Or go crazy and get creative with it. I'm thinking that I might use some of this to make up my own sort of Alfredo sauce with some chicken and broccoli in it. Maybe pour it over some spaghetti squash that we made in another video. Who knows? The options are endless, truly. But really excited to have you here. Look forward to seeing you on another video. Thank you.